Loading. And we are live.
Bye.
Little bit of technical stuff going on behind the scenes, but Steve Metrics here with your boy.
Triggs.
And together we are No Debate Sports in the middle of a NFL divisional round weekend. And I'm feeling kind of pretty good about some of these games over the weekend. How are you feeling, DJ Triggs?
I think some teams are getting exposed. I felt like that the first week, and now I'm feeling even more like that. I mean, what happened to like the Chargers last week? What happened to the Steelers last week? I mean, even to a certain extent, the Vikings again. Like, there's a lot of wonkiness. I mean, at least the Packers, we have an excuse.
They beat up.
No, not even that. Did you see that the referees came out and said, "Oh, A, it was a helmet-to-helmet shot, so it should have been a penalty, and B, he didn't fumble. He recovered the fumble on the opening kickoff." So,
that was a sham. I spoke to someone at work about that as well, and I said, yeah, that opening kickoff was a complete sham. That's like the fix is in. The fix is in.
They fined Oren Burks, though, former Wisconsin Badger and draft pick of the Packers, for that helmet-to-helmet hit. So they just were like, "Oh, yeah, my bad. Just give us some money back. Just put it under the table. We don't need to know anything."
I know. Yeah, to me that was just that was a bad look. I just kind of felt like there was a lot of stuff going completely wrong with Green Bay, and even with things going as well as they were for Philadelphia, they barely had any amount of a lead in that game. So I'll be honest, I'm along the lines of you are, that saying teams are getting exposed. I think Philadelphia is one of those teams, and that is exactly why I bet against them for today.
Yep, I mean, I'm all with you. I mean, to go a little early, but yeah, I'm with you on the Rams. But how about those Lions? Woo!
Yeah, and this was something I know we didn't have this pick in because these things happened after our show last week. But this was a game that I also bet on yesterday. I really like the way Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders are cooking. And I felt like from a couple weeks ago, I felt that game against Minnesota. I was like, man, Jared Goff looked awful at times, man.
Yep.
Like 2 horrendous interceptions where like you're basically getting tackled and you just throw the ball willy-nilly like Gardner Minshew style. And what do you know? There's a guy standing like 6 feet away from you and he just catches it and runs it to the house. And he threw 3 interceptions yesterday. And there was a point where I looked at the stat line and I saw 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. In the fantasy realm, that's 6 points. That's garbage. It's just complete garbage.
That's the thing is like, so one of the things I noticed about yesterday, so I know the Packers were talking about getting a number 1 receiver and, stuff like that. I can't believe I'm saying this because I never, ever, ever, ever say this, but coaching matters more than players.
Exactly. And I told you that last year, bud.
Like, you need like 1 or 2, maybe 3, like, okay, these are our dudes. Normally, that's a quarterback. Like, you need a quarterback. No matter what team you're on, you need a quarterback. Number 1. But then, like, the Washington, I almost said the wrong word. Washington Commanders, De'Ami Brown? Like, what? Who is that? Like,
they got 2 Browns.
The dude went off for 100 and like 6 receptions, 7 receptions. And he dropped that one where it was like, oh man, here goes the tide. But then it was like, oh, nope. And then I go back and I look, the dude had 30 catches and 300 yards. the whole season.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
he's
whole
that guy that
like that's
we liked
crazy.
him. I know it's crazy that like he didn't do much during this regular season, but if Jaden Daniels has you as his guy that day, he's gonna make it work. He was the guy that we liked a year or so ago who was coming into the league with Sam Howell from North Carolina. Had
Yeah.
some sneaky stats a few years ago, actually. But he's grown and he's shaping himself up, and there's no Jahan Dotson there anymore. So he's definitely finding his way to get those reps to a degree. Man, like he made some killer catches in this game. I love what's going on there.
And I feel like Detroit, like, so Minnesota's got some athletes on offense, but they had a pumpkin at quarterback.
They did. Yeah.
They really, their running game was like, Jones was there. He was doing stuff.
Yep.
And most teams couldn't match up with what Detroit had. And Detroit would do a bunch of trick plays and they'd do this. And I give them all the credit in the world, right? Who is it? Ben Johnson, right? I give him all the credit that he used his weapons. Like, all right, this is gonna make some sense to some of the viewers out there, but like, it was like Madden football.
Yes.
Like when you were playing Madden, you get your speed guys out on the edge and then you let them make plays. Well, Jahmyr Gibbs was making plays. I mean, he had nearly 200 yards of offense himself. Amon-Ra St. Brown was making plays. So there's your three guys that you need to make a playoff run. And then it came down to coaching. Well, the Commanders were out Detroit Lionsing the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, they were.
Like, they were on fourth down, like 4 or 5 times. They were doing trick play after trick play. They were getting Robinson, Eckler, McLaurin, Brown out on the edge with like short passes. Like Eckler was averaging 10 yards a catch. His long was 24 yards. Like, you get those guys on the edge and you just go, hey, just go make a play. John Bates, I don't even know who that guy is, but he was in the stat sheet. He got a 20-yard reception. Yeah,
I don't know what position he plays.
No idea. But like, it was like they were putting guys in position to go make plays on the outside. And I've started to learn that more and more, that the crossing routes, the check down receivers, you can hit the big play every once in a while just to keep people honest, but it's all about, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the running back. The running back is the man that is like destroying we talked about Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Brian Robinson, and Austin Eckler were a two-headed monster. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery do their thing normally. Like
Aaron Jones and Cam Akers up in Minnesota.
Yeah, to an extent. Like, even when we go to the next game, Kareem Hunt and Pacheco, like those are the guys scoring touchdowns. It's not everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah, you regress to the mean. You're spot on. The running back has the most ability to score of any player. They can run it, they can catch it, they can do all sorts of magic that gets them involved into almost every play. And if they're having their way in the middle of the field, especially like a guy who runs with power like Josh Jacobs, but can just like kind of fade out and just turn on a dime and make a beautiful catch and then get another 5 yards on top of that catch, that's where it's just killer. And it just takes your offense to another level.
And then those holes open up. Like, okay, Brian Robinson's he's a good running back. He's not fantastic. He's not going to blow you up, or like, you're not going to go, oh yeah, I'm picking that guy first kind of thing. But then you go back and you look and you go, oh, that guy, like, he was number 15 in rushing yards. In rushing touchdowns, during the regular season. And it's like, you don't think of that guy as like a top running back in the league. Well, guess what? He went for $150 with his total yards in this game, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's pretty solid, like. Absolutely. And it wouldn't even surprise you but then I'm sorry, he didn't go for $150. But when you combine him with Austin Eckler, who you don't even remember is on this team, they go for $150 altogether, and you're like, oh, that's what teams should be using.
Yes, and they even go a little bit of Jeremy McNichols, or if they got to go a little bit of C-Rod, they can do that too. They're ready. They got a 3-headed horse that they're ready to work with whomever, whenever, and it's beautiful. I mean, I love that pass that they threw kind of middle of the game where they had your two wideouts kind of stacked out wide, and then you had Terry McLaurin in kind of shotgun behind them. And that pass to Terry where those two wideouts just blocked, it was like running a running play way off on the side of the field. And it was just gorgeous. It was an art form seeing that.
And he went for 50 and a touchdown, if that's the one I'm thinking of.
It sure is. It is absolutely that play. And the other thing, too, that I could see in this game, and I could see it kind of early on when it was like, I think Detroit went up 13 or was about to go up 13-10. And I'm watching the cameras on Jaden Daniels on the sideline. And to me, it like that's when I saw that look in him where I'm like, oh, I've seen this in Aaron Rodgers. I've seen this in Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. He had that look, Patrick Mahomes as well, where it's like, all right, they're going to score. Now I'm going to go out and score and counter that. Mm-hmm. And I can score at will. I think Washington right now is absolutely the scariest team in the NFC because they have an offense that knows they can score at will. I believe they're the only team in the NFL who has gone like 3 games without a punt. And they've had multiple games without a punt, which is crazy.
Wow.
This offense, I believe they said the 3, there was some stat that rolled during the game. And it was like the highest like red zone execution percentage, I think, was Washington, Detroit, and Buffalo. And it was pretty cool seeing that. Like this Washington team, as good as Ben Johnson is calling plays on the offense for Detroit, Cliff Kingsbury is just as good on the Washington side. And I think there's going to be a little resentment against Kingsbury because of how he just crashed and burned with Arizona, that I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job. But honestly, blow for blow, he is right up there with Ben Johnson. He can scheme up crazy stuff. And honestly, he knows he's going out there with a better quarterback than Jared Goff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he crashed and burned. I just think Arizona is just a dumpster fire. So he just burned inside of there.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know who's punching themselves in the face and like shooting themselves in the foot right now is the Philadelphia. Oh, I'm saying the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a chance to get rid of Washington and make sure they didn't make the playoffs. And now Washington's going to cause problems.
Yeah, they will. It is kind of interesting. Like, I mean, I think that was kind of the point to an extent that I saw the Chargers play so hard because they knew the path that they wanted to go. I know people have put on the tinfoil conspiracy hats about the Chiefs. There you go, man. And again, too, we got to get a baseball tinfoil conspiracy hat because I think it looks cooler, especially flat brim. And have like a little metal thing on it, like that would look fly. But anyways, there are people who think that the Chiefs basically just said we're out of here in that final game of the season to make it sure that the Bengals didn't get into the playoffs. There is that belief. I don't fully believe it because I saw how hard Denver has played, and that Bills game was pretty tight for a good amount of time. But it shows that Washington is really, really solid. I didn't care about the 5 losses against the 2 losses of Detroit. They're different losses for different points in time against different teams. And Detroit struggles against mobile passing quarterbacks. And I mean, when they're talking in this game, they're talking the triple option that military schools run and operate. That's not going on in the NFC North. They don't run that triple option in the North. That triple option is run out east between Washington and Philly and maybe a little bit of the Giants. So they're kind of used to that. But yeah, it's pretty cool seeing what Washington's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I just went back and looked at the schedule. I mean, this is the same team that lost to Tampa Bay. They barely beat the Giants twice.
Yep.
Their wins against the Giants a combined 8 points. They lost to the Steelers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay, rookie quarterback is coming back down to earth." They were 7-5, and then went off for 5 straight wins.
Yeah.
1 point against the Saints. That Eagles game, the Atlanta Falcons, who could have made the playoffs if they had just won that game, and then like that last game of the season that where Green Bay fans were sitting there going, "Is Washington losing to Dallas? Like what's going on the scoreboard?"
Mm-hmm.
And now we're here where, yeah, could have. I mean, I think if the Eagles would have put the foot down on Washington 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, we wouldn't be talking the same team. They probably could have stopped that momentum, but Washington just went off for 5 straight wins.
Yeah, and I think too that was also the Jalen Hurts post-concussion game where they were running out there with Kenny Pickett. And I'm sorry, like he throws a beautiful spiral, but Kenny Pickett is Desmond Ridder. None of them are winning games, man. These guys do not have confidence, and they cannot motivate a team to win.
But the thing was, they were up 27-14 going into the fourth quarter. Washington put up 22. So it wasn't Kenny Pickett. They just put up 22. It was 22-6 in the fourth quarter.
Oh no. So basically they kind of pulled the defensive guys.
They basically backed down and said, "Oh, okay. Hurts he's hurt." But Kenny Pickett, I mean, he went out there and he didn't do it like great, but they were up. I mean, Saquon had 150 and 2 touchdowns. Yep. They were up, like I said, 27-14. Washington put up 22 in the fourth quarter.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think you're onto that there. That was the point to deal with that team, and they didn't. Yep. And now it's going to come back to haunt them. I do think this Rams-Eagles game could be kind of a toss-up, especially with weather kind of playing into it. But yeah, I think either of these teams running into Washington is going to be pretty much not the team you want to see.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Like, I know you're more of like you can watch like, I don't know, the Falcons and the Titans, and you're like, yeah, I can watch this game. It's going to be horrible. I know it's horrible, but I'm going to watch it. Like, this is one of those seasons where it's like, man, I wouldn't have guessed Washington, Philly, and the Rams. Maybe Philly, but the way they ended last year, you were like, oh, this is bad. Like, they should fire their coach and all this. Yep. And then on the other side, you've got the 3 best teams in the AFC with the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens. But it's like, okay, it's not crazy. The NFC could win the Super Bowl.
That's where I can differ.
I said could. I'm thinking it's still a 3-peat or Lamar is going all the way. But
it's Lamar.
I've been on that Lamar bandwagon since day one in this world. But it's not crazy. Like, Washington just put up 45 on the quote unquote best team in the league.
I'll be honest. I think the 2 best teams in the NFL right now are Washington and Baltimore. That's where I see that these teams can play solid defense, and then they can just score at will. The other teams are a little bit wonky on that. Buffalo has its hiccups. Kansas City is going to play just ugly football to try to grind out a W.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I thought they would do against the Texans. By the way, if you get a chance on a sliding scale, I went from 9 to 8.5 because that's what I initially saw with the betting line. I'm telling you, if you can slide it down to 6.5, you can sleep a whole lot better knowing you're going to win by a touchdown than having to win by a touchdown and a field goal. It is scary stuff that I'm telling you don't want to play with.
And I know you just said like the 2 best teams being Washington and Baltimore. See, I still think it's Kansas City and Baltimore. Like, Kansas City, yeah, they might not put up astronomical points, but this defense made it like almost like boring. Like Houston
Right.
wasn't, they didn't even matter. Yeah, you look at the score or the box score and you're like, oh, Joe Mixon, 88 yards and a tud. Okay. CJ
That's a
Stroud,
good day.
250. Okay, that's cool.
That's
But
good.
then you go down and you look and you're like, oh, Kansas City had like 20 sacks. Like it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it was getting a little out of hand. Like
Yep.
especially in that fourth quarter, I didn't even think Houston had a shot at scoring anymore.
Yeah. And when it gets to the point too, when you go for a field goal to try to cut into that 11-point lead and you get blocked by two players, like
Yep.
two players literally block that football. It's pretty intense. But my reasoning that I think Kansas City looks so good this game, at home, no travel, and essentially 3 weeks off.
Yep.
They don't get that next week. They do get to play at home, but they get 1 week rest just like everyone else. And they're going to cross their fingers that they can learn from what they lost against with Buffalo. But man, they do not want to see Baltimore. Baltimore will score at will. And as that game goes along, the odds of Derrick Henry going off for a nasty, nasty run significantly increase. So I know people are love the Bills Mafia, but man, I'm just seeing this game. This Baltimore team is just a different animal. They've been playing so hot lately. Even going beyond their playoff games. If you go a little bit through Baltimore's schedule recently, it's been like really, really like solid football.
Mm-hmm.
They really haven't had a close game since they lost at the beginning of December against Philadelphia. Other than that, they've been on a tear for literally their last 5 games.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm with you, but like it's not out of the realm. And that's why I say Kansas City and Baltimore. Whoever wins that to me that's the Super Bowl champ. Um,
Sure.
both of those teams are top 10 in rush defense. Yeah, they
Yep.
give up a little bit on the pass, but like there's going to be points at a premium. Kansas
Right.
City's number 4 in points, giving up about 19 a game. Baltimore's giving up 20 a game. Like it's going to be bowling shoe ugly, but like
Yeah.
you just almost have to go, I believe Patrick Mahomes can do stuff. You know what I mean? But by the way,
Right.
Baltimore's got to get past the Bills. I'm not going to just like look over that. But
Yeah.
8
No, that's
sacks
real.
in a playoff game is nuts. To not allow another team to really get going in any quarter, and then when you need something at the end, you're just like, all right, Pat, go give us something. And that's what
Exactly.
happened.
Yep. Yeah, I mean they have great offensive line. They have great defensive pressure. The way that team is coached as well between Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, heading those offenses and defenses, I felt very, very confident that they were going to win this game. And the thing is too with Houston, they're also missing some really key guys. They're missing both Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. You're going into that game hoping that you just kill it throwing wise to both Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz. I'm a little concerned about that. So I just like the fact that you had a fully loaded Kansas City team against a Houston team that's playing well, but still is missing those weapons that they could really use in that matchup.
Yeah. And it's so weird. Like now looking at some of the stats here is like, I would not have guessed that Kareem Hunt only had 44 yards and 8 carries. I felt like he was just hauling the rock the whole game, but he
Wow.
wasn't. It's kind of weird.
Nice. Yeah, that can be a little weird at times. Like sometimes the stats look a little weird too. And like even from that Washington game, like there wasn't too much of Austin Eckler going on, but man, when Austin Eckler had that ball, like man, he drove it. Like he
Yeah.
made sure he got his yardage.
Like I just keep remembering and seeing Kareem Hunt going like this, like he's eating, and I'm like,
Yeah, he is.
there was a point where he was on the ground tackled, and he's like on the ground going like this, and I'm like, oh, he only had 8 carries. What?
Right.
That doesn't seem right.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of wild how that works. I don't know. Like, I know it wasn't too crazy scoring wise from the Chiefs, but I gotta admit though, like with kind of how they run that offense, I still like the fact that I think this is a team that is content with running like 12 personnel and
Yep.
is totally okay with knowing that outside they're going to work it with basically Xavier Worthy and DeAndre Hopkins, and then they're going to fill all the other wide receivers in sparingly. DeAndre Hopkins has literally no stats in this game.
None. I was gonna say I didn't know he was in the game. Like
Exactly. Xavier Worthy is literally the only wide receiver who actually had receiving yardage.
yeah,
And
but
he
you know
also had
what?
a trick rushing play that didn't work.
That's what they want, though. I mean, we all
Yeah.
talked about how bad Kelsey was. All of a sudden, he goes for 117. Like
Yeah.
when Patrick Mahomes needed a guy for a first down, he looked over at Kelsey and was like, "Okay, you guys know where the ball's going. Try and stop him."
Yeah. That's where I think too the next round for Kansas City starts to get a little problematic because both teams that they would have to play against also operate in 12 personnel and they know how to defend against tight ends and multiple tight ends. So when you take Travis Kelsey out, then they're going to absolutely have to execute with both Xavier Worthy, DeAndre Hopkins, maybe a Juju, a Hollywood Brown. They're going to have to figure out that second wide receiver because those two teams, one of them coming in is they'll be ready to defend against tight end.
And you know what? Maybe that's what they were looking for, and maybe they did that on purpose. Maybe they were just like, okay, you know what? We're just gonna hold Kelsey back for a little bit. We'll hold DeAndre Hopkins back. We won't show you everything in the chamber until we play you. And I mean, they just probably assumed because Houston could not do anything to them.
No,
it was one-sided.
Yeah, it was.
So they probably just thought, we got this. No worries.
Exactly. I kind of felt like too. I mean, you pointed out that the matchups against Houston and Pittsburgh were pretty one-sided. So I was kind of feeling that same kind of momentum would go into this game and being down guys. It's a little uphill sledding against a stout Kansas City defense. And man, it just felt like Kansas City, like they knew what cards they wanted to play with and make sure that when they go up against either Baltimore or Buffalo, that's when they really have to unload the entire deck. They're going to have to use pretty much that will by far be their toughest game going into a Super Bowl if that's the case.
Yeah. And I'm just looking back at it. So Kelsey obviously had his 100 plus and 8 targets. When he played Houston last time, he had 30. And the last time he played Buffalo, he had 8. The last time he played Baltimore, he had 34. So maybe they knew, like, okay, and by the way, they beat Houston and they beat Baltimore. So maybe they were just kind of like, all right, we'll see you in the playoffs, but you don't get to see what we got.
Right. And they know they got a limited shelf life with Kelsey. How did Noah Gray do in those games by chance?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. Let's go back
because he is the heir apparent. And should they run 12 personnel out there, they definitely like to run them both. And they both look identical, to be honest, physique wise. They're both monsters.
So Noah Gray didn't. He had 1 catch for 10 yards against Houston the last time.
Okay.
And in this game, I think he had a couple catches that I can remember.
Yeah, he did all right.
He had 3 for 13.
Yeah, that's solid. Did he do anything against Houston that previous time?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Wow. Interesting.
He had 1 catch for 10 yards.
Okay. Yeah. So it looks like he definitely was kind of getting ready for this game.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs. I think they're smarter than we may be able to give them credit for, even though we think they're super smart. But I think they were just holding back a little bit. Noah Gray against Baltimore had 37 yards. He had more yards and the same amount of catches as Kelsey. And then against Buffalo, he had 4 catches, 23 yards. Again, more catches, more targets than Kelce.
Yeah, and that was a game against Buffalo that they played at full strength. They lost.
Yep.
The Baltimore game too is week 1, a little out of the gate, so you got some stuff you're trying to figure out.
Well, not full strength. They just got Isaiah Pacheco back.
Oh, that was gotcha. Yep. Yeah,
he wasn't even in that game against Baltimore.
So they didn't really have a running game. Yeah.
So now you got the 2-headed monster. I mean, yeah, Pacheco only had 9 carries, but like, it happens, you know?
Yeah, but between him and Kareem Hunt, it's not the greatest day. It does have that nice touchdown. It's just really, really gritty. Basically Travis Kelce, he did the work that between Kelce and Worthy, if they don't have that kind of performance between Kelce and Worthy, then this game's a little bit tight. And I know there's some Will Anderson stuff that happened in this game that I thought was questionable. I thought the roughing the passer penalty early on was really, really sketch. That to me, that looked like a flop on Mahomes, and they just threw it. I didn't like that.
He slid, and I agree. I didn't like that play either. The commentators didn't like the play. But then I sat back and I watched the next 2 drives. Kansas City went down and scored a touchdown. Houston got stopped on 4th down. So I said, you know what? Ball don't lie. Ball does not lie.
It does not. You have your shot to execute on 4 downs and you don't get it. That's on you. The other game, we saw Washington do it several times. They went for it on 4th downs. They got it. Or they had stuff happen on 3rd downs and then a penalty and you have a fresh set of downs and they scored. Ball does not lie. If you can keep that momentum going and make it happen, you will make it happen. So that's where it's at. And to me, Houston just didn't have the horses you need. Like you said, you got to have pretty much a killer quarterback, an outright number 1 wideout, and a solid running game. If you have those 3, your offense is going to be pretty much kicking on all 8 cylinders, in addition to a great offensive line. But that's where I was concerned with Houston is like, yeah, you have Stroud, you have Mixon, and then receiving wise, it is Nico Collins, but that's kind of about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I know we only got a couple of games to talk about.
We do.
How about we make some picks? What do you got?
So going into this upcoming game with the Rams and the Eagles, and for the majority of the week, I wanted to just say screw it. Like the weather, the way Philly plays, like I'm outright going to pick Philly. And then I watched the Rams-Vikings game, and I saw how the Vikings had very limited quarterback play, but had a great defense. And how they made how the Rams basically went up against that is, they may have struggled at times running the football against Minnesota, but they also stopped Aaron Jones and they stopped Cam Akers, and Sam Darnold, like you said, turned into a pumpkin. But besides that, the way Bradford was able to find Puka Nacua, Tyler Higbee, and a little bit of Cooper Kupp, that offense was able to be cooking. There was a play in this game too where Kyron Williams, I thought his season was like done. He took a nasty hit where I was like, man, like Kyron Williams, like his season and next season was over. And by some luck, like Jordan Love had earlier in the year, he was A-okay. So that's how I judged Minnesota in this game. And I thought that Minnesota's quarterback play to me is very similar to how Philadelphia's quarterback play is now. And I think, too, you throw in weather into this game, I think that strengthens all of the overall defenses. And the teams that I know it's winter and weather, but teams can throw in the winter. And if you can actually make throws, well, now that opens up the run game. And now it opens up the rest of your offense. I think the Rams are going to have more ability to do that than Philadelphia will in this game.
See, now we're talking here. So the fun part about this game is Philly can be had on the ground. We talked about that last week with Josh Jacobs and Kyron Williams. He's a dog. Like,
yeah, he is.
They're the number one defense against the pass throughout the regular season, which totally fine. Matthew Stafford's been here before. He's not going to give up a bunch of just wild nonsense. And as you talked about the weather, I'm going to be a weatherman here for a second.
Nice.
Lincoln Financial Field, 37 degrees, feels like 30. They are in a winter storm warning right now. From now until 1 a.m., they're looking at 4 to 6 inches of snow. There's probably not going to be Oh, wait, go ahead.
Is it all going to hit in the middle of the game?
It says 10 to 1, so I don't know. It's going to be nasty. It's snowing and raining right now. So, like, they're getting the mix right now as we speak. It says half an inch of snow is down right now. So, to me, that leans into a Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams game. And I'm kind of excited about just seeing guys bang heads. I mean, and now you have to get those short yardage throws right on cue. Well, guess what?
And Hurts is not good at that.
Stafford. Exactly. I'm going to pick Stafford over Hurts every day of the week when it comes to those short passes. We got Cooper Kupp. We got Puka Nacua out there. They're looking like this is ready to go. Yeah. Everyone's talking about Saquon and getting 2,000. Well, Kyron Williams was the number 7 back in the league. It's not like he's that far back.
Right.
These are two of the best backs in the entire league. I'm gonna lean for the Rams.
That's what I was thinking too.
On this run of, hey, we just smashed Minnesota. I mean, it was 24-3 at halftime.
Yeah, it was.
They're ready to go. Aaron Jones was only carrying about 3 yards a carry in that game, and Kyron Williams was at about 5. Matthew Stafford didn't make any interceptions. Sam Darnold had 1. Like, it's go time, and if Hurts doesn't keep up, they could run them down too.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about with this team, is that, like, they can really hit those, like, short kind of middle of the field plays. And I think too, like, they have 2 tight ends that can kind of make this happen. Both Tyler Higbee and Colby Parkinson, they can make this happen. They can bring in Tutu Atwell for, like, a weird trick play here and there. They got some magic, man. And I mean, they hit dynamite on both guys that they drafted to try to replace Aaron Donald. And one of those actually got named to the Pro Bowl as well. So this defense is actually stepping up. And I think this is a game where, like, everyone is picking Philadelphia. I don't know anyone besides us who has the guts to say, you know what, I'll take the Rams in the cold outside in Philly. I've been telling people, I'm like, hey, I think both these NFC games could actually be real shockers that no one sees coming. And I think too, even from a betting angle, that just strengthens Vegas. No one was happier to see Detroit lose yesterday more than Vegas. That's a fact. And I know too, it got to the point where some of these books in Vegas were like kind of like money concerned. Should Detroit like really go the distance? So that concern is gone now. And now this next one is, if you have such big money on Philadelphia, I could see if you gotta say tinfoil hat conspiracy fix is in. I could see calls going to LA's way, to be honest.
Oh
yeah.
Tinfoil hat conspiracy.
Exactly.
No, I'm in there. I'm all for it. I would like to see another upset. Get a Rams versus Washington. Like, what is this? 1980s football. Like,
yeah, I don't even remember. I like Rams Washington. that's a matchup that has just never clicked with me for anything ever in my lifetime. So this will be a first time where it's like, whoa, Jaden Daniels against Matt Stafford, like, whoa, that's cool. That's some cool stuff. And I go back to kind of what I've been seeing kind of like since the beginning of the season. And again, too, I watch a lot of Fox Sports during the week if it's on my days off. And I've never seen a much higher person on the Rams than Colin Cowherd. He has been like behind the Rams since like day one. And I was pretty surprised by that. I didn't support that. I supported the Seahawks and the Cardinals, to be honest. But now seeing kind of how they turned the corner since they got their guys back, like, wow, this team is on fire, like pure fire. Them in Washington, they have that similarity where it's like they kind of can score at will.
That's kind of what that's no debate. See, there we go.
That's no debate. Exactly. Oh. That's where I feel good about this is like I feel like the teams that I've picked to win can kind of score at will. Or I mean, the Kansas City route, I went kind of bleed you out by 1,000 pricks kind of thing. But between Washington, LA, and Baltimore, I feel like all three of them can score at will. Like Josh Allen can do some stuff, but man, I saw Denver kind of contain him for the majority of that game until they opened the floodgates on that 4th and 1. And that totally takes the wind out of your sails. I mean, I don't care how close that game is. When that play happened, it was like, oh, yep, game's over. It sucks. Like you thought you had everything contained, and then that one moment happened, and that was pretty much the end of Denver's season at that point. So
yeah,
I think Baltimore can take care of that in the secondary. But man, these Rams, I know they're going to be facing the weather, but they're going to know some short passing options to make some things click. Whereas Jalen Hurts doesn't like to do that. He really likes to sling it, or he likes to run and take off. That's his MO.
Right. Now, I know I said 1980s, and that's probably way before anyone cared about either one of these teams. But I was spot on. They played in 1986. We had like Jay Schroeder and guys like I'm not even gonna lie. I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is.
But they played in 1986 and in 1983 in the playoffs. So they were beating each other up pretty good out there.
Yeah, I think that's where we got to get the Steve Smith soundbite of where he gets asked about some player. He's like, never heard of him. That's one of them, man. That's straight up never heard of him.
Those guys were playing in, I believe, the divisional round. So they were playoff feuding for a couple of years there.
That's crazy, man. That is absolutely crazy.
So big game. Who do you got? Baltimore, Buffalo. Where are we at?
Yeah, at this point, Baltimore to me is just a different animal. Fun fact: this is the one game of the 4 where the visiting team is actually the favorite.
Yes, by one.
By one. So to me, I find that pretty interesting betting wise. I saw that on the point spread. It was like you get better odds barely by betting Baltimore to win by 1, but then again, if they win by 1, they win. So I was kind of confused by the technicality on that. I just took Baltimore straight up money line. I'm like, all right, cool. -120 versus -110. We're talking like very like pennies essentially. So I'm sticking with Baltimore. I believe I was hearing Zay Flowers is back for this game.
Okay.
I can't confirm that, but I do believe I was seeing some chatter along some Twitter stuff that Zay Flowers might be back for this game. So I thought that was actually really beneficial as well. But just all in all, man, I think the Ravens are cooking, and I think it's gonna show in this game. I mean, Bills at home too. Again, this game's got a little bit of weather going with it too. But I just really like the way Baltimore is playing, and man, when you got a guy like Derrick Henry, that it changes things. It really changes things now. They figured out that offense.
There's not going to be snow. It's just going to be really, really cold.
Sure.
So just cold weather. I know they've got Cook on the other side, but I would much rather tackle that guy than Derrick Henry. That is a like, when I think I said this before, when we're playing, we're just throwing snowballs at each other, and one of them has an ice block in it, and bang, it hits you in the face. You're bleeding a little bit on the nose. Now you're mad.
Right.
Derrick Henry is the ice block coming out of the snow. Like,
yeah, he is.
the snowballs that are getting chucked at you are Lamar Jackson running around doing his thing, and you're like, oh, okay, it was just Lamar. Then all of a sudden comes that hole, and Derrick Henry hits you. I don't want to tackle that guy. Not gonna lie, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is if we go back to that Broncos game, what was going on for the majority of that Broncos game is that James Cook was cooking. He was pretty much a hot knife through butter, pretty much wherever he wanted to go in that game. However, there's one NFL team that I've seen virtually no running back success against ever this entire season, no matter who is thrown at him, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. You cannot run on this team.
Number 1 ranked rush defense in the league. Now they're susceptible to the pass, which is fine, but you can't run against them. You can't run, and you're gonna have to. The reason why they get caught up with the pass is because guess what, Buffalo? They beat you by 20. Like, if we're getting beat by 20, we're not running the ball anymore. Like, this team is going to run up the score. I honestly don't know how Buffalo keeps up.
Yeah, and this is one, too, where, I mean, like, I for me, like, from the betting angle, like, seeing that it's basically even money, to be honest, if you pick Baltimore, even in a sense Buffalo, too, to be honest. But, yeah, I think you're right. Like, if you want to take, like, some long shot bet and have Baltimore by, like, 13.5, yeah, you could do some damage. You could totally do some damage. I don't know if the spread would let you. I kind of want to, like, just kind of play with it on the app and see if it does allow me to do anything. But yeah, I think that's something where, yeah, you could totally play around with the spread of this game and feel confident. I'd have a regular bet just to make sure that Baltimore takes care of business. But yeah, okay, here we go. I'm going to move the line as heavy as I can for Baltimore. So the most it allows me to do is -9. That's the confidence level in the sportsbook. But if you do -9, that gives you +270. So almost triple payback for the money you throw down on Baltimore.
Huh.
Yeah.
Not saying I'm locking that one in.
Yeah.
Wink.
but be like, go 8.5, because don't screw with, like, getting ties or anything like that. Just go 8.5 to get the outright win with Baltimore there, and you're gonna 2.5 your money for sure.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good odds there. Pretty good stuff. But yeah, that's where I'm at with this game. Is pretty much we are locking step on this. I would say, though, like, when it comes to Buffalo, if you're playing with players, like, I do like the way that Josh Allen lately is really, really working well with Khalil Shakir. And that was something that the guy who actually won our fantasy league, that was like the number one name he kept throwing at me every time I crossed paths with him. He's like, man, I'm really hoping to draft Khalil Shakir. Spot on, man. Khalil Shakir is killing it. He's that guy who cuts that middle of the field really well for the Bills.
I wish you would have done that most of the beginning of the season, but
it happens. That's debate. That's debate.
True.
So there we go, man. So yeah, I'd say that's pretty much everything we got for this week, and then next week is Championship Sunday, man. So I think we're ready to go, man.
Maybe we'll talk some WNBA 3-on-3 ladies basketball.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm smiling because that just started.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that's really cool. I think that's why kind of too, like, we were hearing rumors of Caitlin Clark to go play that, like, big three, and then it just kind of vanished. And I think this might be the thing that was in the works that you want to keep on the low.
She's not playing. She's not on the team.
Right. But the development of this league, whether she's not on a team or not, I think that might have been like, hey, we're working on building something. Let's not have people jump ship to the big three. Let's try to make this in-house. And I think it's cool, and I think it's going to show up and become something. So it's
Nafisha Collier and Brianna Stewart came up with the idea, so it's kind of cool. They're the owners.
Yes, that's brilliant. So yeah, the fact that they're players and now they're owners of that, super powerful. That's cool, man.
Yeah, and the 3-on-3 hopped in the Olympics, so like this is kind of like a warm up because I don't think we did very well in the Olympics 3-on-3.
No, and that was the thing too. Olympic 3-on-3 was supposed to be spearheaded by Cameron Brink, and yeah, she tore her knee, so that's a bummer.
She's actually she got picked. She's on one of these teams, even with the injury.
Good. Okay, yeah, so that's cool. That's good to see. But yeah, I think women's 3-on-3 was really gonna gain some momentum over the summer. Had Cameron Brink been a part of that. But the fact that it's doing it now and they know how to pick their poison and pick their timing on when to schedule and make these things happen is brilliant.
Boom. That's debate. There it is.
There you go, man. So with that, we're out of here. We'll see you next week, 10 a.m. Yeah, we'll see you then.